This is from the second part of my novel, Mercy Among the Children. It's the second part is called Fury, and it's about the aftermath of the death of Trenton Pitt. Matthew Pitt is responsible for the death of his brother, Trenton, who was killed in the collapse of the bridge that Matthew Pitt sabotaged. It was blamed on Matthew Pitt's next door neighbor, Sidney Henderson, and his family. And this is where Sidney Henderson's Golgotha really begins in the novel. And it takes him years to exonerate himself and his family. Matthew Pitt in this section speaks to both Constable Morse, who is the RCMP officer, and his mother and his sister. And I'll read simply a part of it. A few weeks later, there was a full moon and stars dotted the sky. The snow was hard, and even though the mercury was low, the first sign of spring could be felt in those dry, tiny orbs of air. Constable Marcus went to Polly's restaurant to calm down Matthew Pitt, who had just gotten into a fight with the trucker, a fight he attributed to his family's suffering over the death of his brother. Matthew sat with his hand on a bottle of beer, his jean jacket rolled up, showing the sleeves of the frayed white sweater, and complained to Constable Morse about the inequality of the law. Why have a law if it allowed this? What right did the law have to make his family suffer these indignities? Just because he once had legal troubles himself, was it right for the law to persecute him? Constable Morse agreed and apologized for the entire case against Sidney Henderson. It was not handled properly at any level, and never since the murder of young Carrie Smith some years before had there been such a debacle. Good men suffer all the time because cases aren't handled properly, Morse said. He blamed the prosecution for botching what was essentially what he thought an easy conviction. What if he confesses? Matthew said. If he confesses, Morse said. An inquest really isn't a trial. A confession would change everything. Morse then whispered something to hearten Matthew. Morse said he was a tough boy himself and came from tough people, but there was one thing he knew. And what is that? Matthew asked. Murder is always open. The case will always be opened, Morse continued. You think I have given up? I don't give up. I won't give up until that bastard is behind bars and his beautiful wife is free of the torment she has suffered. She shouldn't be made pregnant by that son of a bitch. Matthew flinched at the line, murder is always open. He went home that night and his mother called to him. She had heard about the fight at the bar from a neighbor who phoned. He went to her, kissed her forehead. She was sitting up propped on two pillows. Her room had the oddly familiar style of faded flowers and a lingering second scent of the aged within the fragrance of those flowers, caught in the warm pink walls and the deep maritime scent of midwinter thaw, which had turned to ice again in the night. Alvina's teeth were on the nightstand beside her, along with a box of Kleenex. The television had been brought upstairs, and she kept pointing the remote at it like a gun, her arms straight and her lips pressed tight. She watched Mass for Shut-ins and the Billy Graham Crusades and reruns of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But now her TV with its 2-foot-long rabbit ear was off. She looked at her son and he joked with her, but she was disturbed and had prayed at church. The day before she had asked him to swear to her on a Bible that he knew nothing of Trenton's death, or the truck driven into the span, or the bolts being cut on the bridge. She had grown old in the last 4 months, and looked at him tonight with eyes filled with bitter disappointments. What is wrong? He asked. Why don't you swear on the Bible for me? If you have not committed a sin, then why not do this for Trenton's sake? It's not my kind of book, he said, the Bible. Besides, I have bigger fish to fry, he sniffed, talking to a constable tonight and everything else. She looked at him and plucked the quilt with her fingers. I could not stand if you did it, Kiss St. Jude. She nervously reached about her neck and held the medallion up with her trembling fingers toward his mouth in bright hope and expectation. He turned away abruptly. No, I don't kiss St. Jude. I used to, but lately I don't like him. I used to pray to him when I hunted, and I never had any luck. I used to pray to him when I trapped, and the coyotes took my catch. St. Jude cares more for coyotes than he does for me, I figure. She knew Matthews had said in December that he would do exactly what had been done, sabotage the bridge and stop work on it. Now Alvina had to convince herself, as Matthew's old mother who loved him, that he had not done what he had in his mind to do, but that for some insane reason Sidney, who had never bothered her before, had done it. Alvina also knew the moment she had accused Sidney on the bridge, with the boy's body lying in front of her, with little Trenton's death in front of her, the implications of what she said against him, that a mother of a dead child could cause the rancor she had now caused. It was in her heart to wound him, but now she could not take any of it back. She had become, like Rudy and Connie Devlin, an unwilling conspirator in her son's commission of a horrible crime. Matthew kissed her cheeks, and she put the medal of St. Jude back under her nightdress. I love you, Mom, he said, and I love Trenton too, very much. Matthew went downstairs and into the back room where Trenton had spent so much of his time. Cynthia was sitting alone with a blanket over her, considering many things this night. She looked at Matthew and returned to her binoculars to watch our house. She was aware that there was an immense grace allowed to Pitts because of the death of this child, and she and Matthew wanted more. Still, as Matthew looked at her, he worried, because he could see a future where this grace would not be so easily attained, and each day passed, and as each day passed, the suffering of Ellie and Sidney would be considered monstrous if the real truth ever came to light. All these people are undeniably Miramichians. Matthew Pitt and Cynthia have grown up beside the river and know it like the back of their hand. And Sidney Henderson and his wife Ellie and children are too. But they're completely different in how they view life on the Miramichi and in fact how they view their own human souls. Matthew and Cynthia have had not very many advantages in life, but they try to take advantage of other people. Sidney and Ellie and their children have had no advantages in life either, but they try to give whatever they can to people. That is in a response to the human condition. That's about the understanding of what people are put on earth for. And it's about the development of the human soul. Matthew and Cynthia both at the end come to regret their actions and what they do to this family. Sidney and Ellie and their kids, because of their own souls, in every way they can persevere. This novel could only take place on the Miramichi, but in every sense of the word, because it does, it's a universal look at love and hate and goodness and evil.